What's up, YouTube? How you guys doing? I'm doing freaking incredible. It is currently September the 14th, about quarter past 3 in the afternoon. So today I already went to the gym. As you can tell, it's kind of late. I like to hit the gym a little bit earlier when I can on my days off. And so I went and I hit some arms and shoulders. This is not something I typically do, but I will throw it in from time to time. So I wanted to make a video today kind of breaking down why I do arms and shoulders, when I do it, how I do it, and everything else that surrounds this topic. So first things first, why do I do a arm and shoulder day? So aside from my traditional split, which is my push-pull legs, I find that's the best way that works for me. Sometimes I mess around with it and I change it up and I kind of try to listen to my body a little more, and I'll do splits that way because I do have a good understanding now of how to train and how to program, and so I can kind of do it as I go often. But anyways, besides that traditional split that I do, I will occasionally throw in arms and shoulders. Now it does very much depend. So in this case, the reason I had done it was because yesterday I had gone to the gym and I had a back day in which I had a more limited amount of time. So I really did a lot of work on my back, and I made sure not to use my biceps too much through my back exercises because I knew that I wouldn't necessarily have time to get to the end of my workout and isolate my biceps as I like to do on a normal workout day. So I spared them throughout my back exercises so that I can come back in today and then hit my biceps, triceps, and shoulders all together. It's been 2 days now since I did my push day, which, as you guys obviously saw, it wasn't too heavy, it wasn't too intense. So those factors combined make it that my muscles in my arms and my shoulders especially were not too sore, nor were they really in a recovery state anymore. So I was able to now go and hit them. The other reason that this was possible and that I wanted to do this was really because of the lack of volume that I was able to attain on my arms and shoulders throughout this week of training. So those two things are really the things you want to look out for when you're thinking of throwing in a arm and shoulder day. I usually won't bother with it because through my push and pull days especially, I managed to get a lot of volume in, more so than I would probably actually need on my biceps and shoulders and triceps. So another reason I really like to throw in an arm and shoulder day from time to time is really because as I mentioned earlier, I get to the end of my workouts and then I focus on isolating those muscles in my arms and shoulders. The reason I do this is because there's a very common rule when you're in the gym and you're especially more leaning towards bodybuilding. You'll go from general lifts to specific lifts. So that means that at the start of your workout, ideally you're going to be doing lifts that require more muscles. So that's what you would call a compound exercise. So say your bench press is a compound exercise. It's using, well, it uses the majority of your body, to be completely honest with you guys. If you guys know how to properly utilize leg drive, it uses your legs, it uses your core, it uses your front delts, it uses your triceps, it uses your chest, obviously. It's the chest bench press. So that being said, you would start with something like that, and then as you progress throughout your workout, you want to get to the more specific exercises that really isolate certain muscles. This is because the compound exercises generally require much more energy to produce a lot of power and properly perform these lifts, whereas the specific ones, obviously you're using less muscles and they are less draining, not only mentally but physically as well. So all that being said, it really leads me to the point that the arm and shoulder day could be really a good idea because it allows you to, from the start of your workout, really focus on isolating those muscles and giving 100% of your energy towards really burning them out and giving them the proper volume that they need for that training session or for that training week or whatever. Alright guys, so we're back. I'm sorry about the change in quality of audio here. I'm using a different mic to record over these clips. So let's talk about the workout a bit. First, I want to mention that with arms and shoulders, I really like to incorporate supersets and giant sets as much as I can. I find that it is a great opportunity to promote a lot of blood flow and really push myself a lot harder than I typically can with my other workouts, because when I'm doing a typical push or pull day or even a leg day, often the exercises I'm doing are a lot more exerting, and they're also using the same muscle groups. So doing a superset, for example, when I'm hitting my back isn't always ideal, because a lot of the time the muscles really work together, and I have a hard time getting these sets done at a high quality level. As opposed to here, when I'm doing with this first giant set, is dumbbell curls followed by lateral raises and then followed by tricep pushdowns with the rope. So the reason I really like this is mainly because none of the muscles interfere with another exercise. So if I'm doing my dumbbell curls and then move on to my lateral raises, I don't have to worry about my biceps being fatigued and hindering the quality of my lateral raises afterwards, as well as my tricep pushdowns. Of course, it is more taxing on your respiratory system as well as your nervous system, but that's okay. Nothing harmful can come out of that. You just got to work through it and push hard. So I do 3 sets of 10 to 12 here, and I actually try to push as far as I can. If I can go above 12 on the weight that I set myself to do at around that weight, at around that rep range, then I will do so, but that's about what I'm aiming for. Then I follow it up with a superset here, which really consists of these barbell curls, as you're seeing, followed by the two-handed essentially barbell, but it's just a straight bar attachment on the cables. It's a curl as well, and what I do is I take a certain weight, and here I think I got 8 or 9 reps, I don't remember, and I follow it up with the exact same weight on the cables and go to failure, because usually on the cables you can take the same weight you were lifting with the free weights and continue past failure. So what this really does is just trick your muscle into thinking that it's lifting way more than it is, when really you're lifting the same amount of weight. It's just in a different resistance, so you're able to go push past that point where you wouldn't have been able to with the free weights. I then follow up with a superset between rear delt flies and reverse tricep pushdowns. So again, here's the same concept of not having muscles interfere with each other, allowing me to really push myself further than I would normally be able to, as well as get this workout done more efficiently. So for a lot of you guys that are looking for quicker workouts, supersets and giant sets really are the way to go. They allow you to really get through them real quick. So here with the reverse tricep pushdowns, I am mostly trying to hit the medial head. It is one of the safer exercises for me right now with my injured shoulder. And then with the rear delt flies, I think it's pretty evident that I'm simply trying to hit the rear delts as much as possible. So a little point on the rear delts: they are a very neglected muscle amongst a lot of people, I've noticed. It is super crucial that you guys are taking the time to train your rear delts, because oftentimes the imbalance between the front and back sides of your bodies is what's going to cause an injury, right? If you have tight muscles on one side and more stretched out muscles on the other, eventually you're going to have that imbalance that forms, and you're not going to have proper stability when you're doing certain exercises. So you have agonist and antagonist muscles, right? You have one that is acting as a main mover in an exercise, and you have one that is acting as a stabilizer. So if you have one that is weak while it's trying to stabilize for your agonist muscle, then obviously the weaker muscle is not going to be able to support the load that you're trying to put on it, and it will be at a high risk for injury. And that is essentially how I initially injured my shoulder, and then I made it worse in other scenarios, but that's for a whole other day. So I then follow up with these lever machine pushdowns, which essentially replace the dips for me, because I'm unable to do that. And not that I would typically do dips on a regular tricep day, it's just one of the few exercises that I'm still able to get through without harming my shoulder. So lastly, I finish off with some heavy hammer curls. I do basically 2 sets of 12, but I like to do 2 sets to failure with this. And the reason I saved the hammer curls for last is really because you get the support from the brachialis in your arm, and it allows your biceps to push a little bit further, even though you might have been at failure after the last 2 exercises. Okay, so now that we've talked about why you should do an arm and shoulder day and when you should do an arm and shoulder day, let's do the opposite and talk about when you shouldn't do an arm and shoulder day. So obviously, if you guys have been training really hard throughout the week and you did your push, you did your pull, or you whatever split you're doing, you managed to get a lot of volume in on your shoulders and your arms, then obviously I think it goes without saying that it's not necessary to throw in an arm and shoulder day, right? Ideally, you'd probably just continue on the same split, allow your body to recover properly, and then continue with your progress. So another example of when you wouldn't necessarily need to go train your arms and shoulders and devote a whole day for that is when your goals are not necessarily to train for hypertrophy and try to put on as much lean mass as possible, but instead to I got a fly flying around me and I don't know why. But is instead for powerlifting, right? Or for weightlifting, for example, Olympic weightlifting. I did Olympic weightlifting back in the day, and I did it for years, and I will tell you that not once did I ever have a training session where my coach had me do any form of arms, really. I mean, it was very, very rare that we would even throw it into our regular workouts, because it's always getting trained when you're doing these big compound movements. So another reason why it would be very important not to go and hit 8 arms and shoulder day if you are still sore or recovering from a previous workout would really be because overtraining is a real risk. Biceps and triceps, you can really get away with it, but your shoulders especially are a vulnerable set of muscles. You want to be very careful not to overtrain your shoulders. They do almost everything, and they are always under a lot of strain in pretty much all exercises that you do. So it's very important that you guys understand your body and try to really take some time to realize when you're going into a state of overtraining, or I mean even the opposite, going into a state of undertraining, meaning you're just not giving it enough and you're not really seeing those results. But in this case, we're talking about overtraining. You really want to be very, very careful not to do that too, especially your shoulders. Like I said, it's very, very easy to injure these muscles and tendons and ligaments that are in here, and it takes a long while to recover from sometimes, and depending on how severe the injury is, you might wind up needing surgery someday, or you might be stuck with it for a long, long period of time, and we really don't want that, right? Especially when we consider the shoulder and how much it contributes to so many of the lifts that we do on an everyday basis. So that's going to wrap up today's video, guys. I really hope you learned something. I hope you are also entertained at the same time. I'm really, really loving making these videos, and I'm so, so, so thankful for everybody who's been tuning in and giving me likes and leaving comments and subscribing to the channel. It's all super, super, super appreciated. And that's it, guys. I will see you guys hopefully tomorrow with a new entertaining and informative video.